With that, we're going to go and jump into this podcast. I'm here with Renee. For people that have been on social media for a while, anybody that's, looked into anything online, whether it's social media marketing, I think they've at least seen one of your videos pop up. I know I have a few times. And, one of my team members like, man, Nick, I got Renee booked. He was really excited. And so am I to have this conversation. So with that, for everybody watching that doesn't know who you are, maybe you could share like a 30-foot overview on who you are and a little bit about your companies.
Yeah, man. So my name is Rene Lacad. I am an entrepreneur. I have 4 main businesses that I focus on. I made my first $1 million. I was 24 years old with social media marketing. So that was the very first business I started. It was something that you didn't need money to start. I come from like a poor background, so I didn't really have money to throw into a business. So the agency model was the best. I started a social media marketing agency, made my first $1 million, and then from there I kind of diversified my holdings. So I built a supplement company, followed by a software company, and then I also do the education as well. So those are kind of the 3 main companies I own. We've done about, between all 4 of them, $40 million in revenue. So pretty good, not bad.
Definitely pretty good. I was actually about to ask that. So 40 million, and that was over the course of how many years?
I've been doing this for about 7 years now. So 7 years, 7 years.
Love that. And I also love the fact that you've done it in different industries, right? I think that really shows, a true entrepreneur is when you could take the principles and plug and play it to a new industry and go and dominate. So let's talk about that. So you have, your supplement company, the software, and then education, right? Which one are you most passionate about, and what's, your main focus, or are they pretty split across the 3?
So it's weird because the other companies, like between supplements and software, I look at it as an exit play because I have more money than I can spend now. And I don't say that to brag, but it's like after a couple $100,000 a month, you don't really need more money than that, right? Like I have one of the biggest penthouses in Miami. I don't really need more money. I just want that fuck you money, because there's levels of making money. You make $5,000 a month, you can't really do anything, right? It's like 9-to-5 job money. You make 10 grand a month. Now life starts to open up. 50 grand a month. Now you can get your exotic car, move somewhere nice, do a nice dinner. At $100,000-$200,000 a month, there's not really any limitations on you other than you can't buy a jet or you can't move the world. So right now I look towards exits as something I want to do, because once you get $100 million, that's when you start to influence the world. I saw something really interesting. Sorry to be long-winded, but I saw something super interesting. It was talking about this TikTok, man, that's going on right now. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
So they're banning TikTok, and someone actually, funny enough, made a TikTok about one of the politicians that voted to ban TikTok. And they took a deep dive and they took a look at his contributions. And his biggest donor was Google, and his second biggest donor was Meta. And they were voting to ban TikTok. So once you have that kind of money, right, $100 million, you can start to influence the world a little bit. You can start to buy politicians. As unfortunate as it sounds, you can start to buy politicians. Let's say I wanted to build a gigantic house, but the city didn't allow it because there's zoning laws. They'll make an exception for me if I'm generous enough to them, right? Or let's say I'm speeding, but I'm a big donor to the police department. I might get away with speeding down the street or running a red light every once in a while. So once you have $100 million, you start to influence the world. And the regular boundaries that apply to humans, it doesn't really apply to you anymore. So really passionate about those companies because I look at it as an exit. It allows me to have real freedom as opposed to faux freedom. And I like the education too. It's 2 different things. One fulfills me internally because I get to help other people. The other one almost allows me to leave a legacy. And it's almost like an ego thing. So the businesses, I do them for 2 different reasons, but I can't really choose one if I had to.
I understand that. And I feel like I kind of went through the same cycle. And I think most entrepreneurs maybe do, but once you kind of have that first business that's really cash flowing and you kind of get to that point where I also noticed the same thing. When I started to make 40 to 60 grand a month, I pretty much could get whatever I wanted, right? It was like, look, I can get the car, I can get the house, I can go out to, dude, everybody experiences this, but I definitely had like a 3 to 5K a month Uber Eats bill. Like it was stupid. You kind of get to that point, right? And then beyond that, the thing that I realized is to really escape, I do feel like you should build something that has its own brand. It actually is set up in a way with the right systems, and you have an operator and you have a team in place to be able to exit. And that's actually something where for me, going through that process, where this last 6 months I've been going through that process, actually working with attorneys and basically offloading one of the companies that I've been building the last few years. And now I have the playbook. And the thing I'm excited about is once you have that playbook, you can build a business that cash flows for 3 years, and they'll look at, this is my experience, they'll look at the profit that you make each year, but after 3 years, you can take those tax returns and it is enough proof to package the deal up and sell it. So now that I have that playbook, I feel like my girl's like, so are you gonna, like, what's next? I'm like, dude, I'm gonna do it again. And then I'm gonna do it again. But
what do you think keeps you going?
Yeah.
Like, what do you think makes you want to do it again?
For me, I do have my billion dollar idea where I'm like, dude, I'd love to build this. It seems it's a little bit outside the scope of like what I like for someone to do something, you do have to believe like, hey, I can do this, right? So my $1 billion idea is something where it does involve technology. It does involve, raising funds. It does involve, something where it's going to be a huge project. And right now with my skill sets, at least the skill sets I had, I didn't feel confident actually deploying that project, and I think I'm getting there. And the reason why I think I'm getting there is because I have a team of 20 developers, and I also have built companies. I understand systems, and I'm getting closer to it. But when I do that project, I'd like to have 30, 40 million in the bank, and I'm just not there yet.
Nice, bro.
Yeah.
Real quick, even continue the interview. I have to give you your flowers. Because I don't know if you even remember this, but this has to be a long time ago. I met you while I was working a 9-to-5 job. It wasn't the traditional 9-to-5 job, but I actually met you when I was working a 9-to-5 job. Because you're an OG. You've been in this game for a really long time. But I remember I was a media buyer for Tai Lopez. And you actually, I don't know if it like you did a live call for him or something. You went to the Beverly Hills house. We met very, very briefly. And dude, a lot of people that end up making money, they disappear, right? Drake has a quote, like, only real shit's gonna last. All that other bullshit is here today, gone tomorrow. Bro, you've been in the game, 10 years?
Yeah.
You're an OG. Yeah. So I got to give you your flowers, bro. You've done an amazing job. You've maintained it. And I don't even know if you remember, but I know for me, early on in my journey, it's something else when you get to see someone that's around your age that's making money, that's actually doing it. So it was definitely like one of those things where it shifted my view of how people make money. It made me realize what's possible. And you've been doing it for a while, bro. So I've seen your stuff as well. That's awesome. So I gotta give you your flowers.
I appreciate that, man. Anybody that's been in the online space for 5, 6, 7 years, they're like, dude, I know you. And they're like, man, I remember I used to run pretty heavy traffic. And I do appreciate that truly. And dude, it gives me the chills, right? And for me, I shifted away from building my personal brand because I wanted to learn how to build. I guess it was a thing where I still felt like I wasn't able to build a real business, but I wanted to build a real business that could be seen as an asset, that could get evaluated and sell it. And that's kind of where I took this hiatus from social media. I did that, and dude, now I'm coming back. So with that being said, With that being said, Renee, let's go ahead and talk about this, man. So on your end, obviously you worked with Tai Lopez. That must have been amazing, amazing opportunity to learn. I also worked with Grant Cardone. I don't know if you knew this, 10 years ago. That was my first job. And I learned a ton. Wow. Yeah, I learned a ton. I literally I was in school in upstate New York, went to Cornell University. I dropped out. I went to work with Grant Cardone, and that was my first introduction to, sales. And I didn't even realize it, but the personal brand space, right? For you, what would you contribute to working with Tai? And, obviously you went on to build a really big personal brand, right? What'd you take away from that experience?
Crazy, man. So it's almost like different sides of the same coin, which is really cool to hear. It lets me know I'm not the only one. As far as working with Tai, I think a lot of this stuff, it boils down to mindset. I used to be the type of guy, I hated the mindset stuff. Because it's like, why the fuck are we talking about mindset? Teach me the skills. I want to make money. That's really what it was. And now I think that a lot of it boils down to mindset, because you have to realize it's possible at first, right? Saying, hey, you can make money on the internet is great, but it's all fugazi. It's just an idea in the air. Until you actually see it, it's not real. So I think one of the biggest things I learned working with Tai, not only the skills, because I learned a lot of inside information from the industry, but more than that, I see this guy with his giant mansion and his 6 supercars and how much money he spends and his personal chef and all this stuff, all these people working at his house. And I realized, holy fuck, if this guy is spending $500,000 a month just on his personal expenses, what is, like, I'm not even making that much money. I'm like, what is stopping me from doing that? If there's that much money out there that someone can live this abundant, why am I over here struggling to pay my rent? Because at the time I had a 2-bedroom apartment, roommates, and it was not a nice place, not a nice area. So if someone else can do this, why can't I? And it really let me know that this is possible. There are people really out there doing it.
Totally. So really it was just you being in that environment, and it opened up your basically your perception and reality. Like, dude, this is possible for me. Right. And then when you shifted, because obviously you started, I've seen your personal brand grow over the years, right? And I would say you definitely had a strong start, but what do you think were the skill sets that really attributed you to, go and, start, doing, millions of dollars, do north of 40 million, right? What are those things that you took with you? Because you had a background as a media buyer, right? But what were the things that really impacted your businesses aside from that?
So I think a really, really big part of it is just psychology. When you break down advertising, sure, clicking buttons on the computer is great, but a lot of it boils down to psychology. And it's not just psychology of how people work, but it's how people buy, how people part with money. Because everyone loves to talk a big game, but the second that a customer has to leave and part with their money, that's when they get finicky. So I think understanding what's gonna make someone buy, hey, if we make it super easy for them, you take a look at Amazon, great example, that little buy now button, make it super easy for them, they're more likely to purchase. So everything that I've built on top of that, everything I've launched after leaving, I've always taken the approach of how can we make it as easy as possible to buy this product? Whether it's, hey, at a click of a button, you can buy this product, or hey, it's super obvious where you have to go. Because oftentimes when I look at some people's businesses, if it's too hard to purchase a product, people are gonna fall off. They're not gonna do it. So I think one of the biggest things when it came to building my businesses everywhere, not only the consumer psychology and understanding what's gonna make someone buy, but it's also understanding that they're not gonna put in a lot of effort. And this bleeds into like everyday life. It bleeds into every single relationship you have, right? If you're gonna take a girl on a date, you're not gonna say, hey, Uber to this location, then I'm gonna come pick you up, and then make sure that you do this and this and this, because they're gonna look at you like, okay, this is too much work. I don't wanna go on a date with this guy. Whereas, hey, I'm sending a car to your house. It's gonna come pick you up. It's gonna take you to this restaurant. I know you like this type of food, and we'll have our date. It's so much easier and much less friction, which is the word I like to use. Removing the friction from your life and piling it, stacking it on top of the psychology of consumers, that's like the ultimate way to build a business really, really quickly.
There's a lot of depth to that, and it's really like it is deep, and it's something where one of the things I learned from one of my mentors is you do want to make what you're doing in a way that's easily consumable, in a way that could be understood, and ideally from the viewpoint of the consumer, right? Something they can experience easily. I'm here in Mexico, like I said. I'm with one of the guys. He has an influencer agency, so he manages like a lot of Latin influencers that have millions of followers. And he was talking about marketing his idea for this post, and I'm like, dude, I think this could be a good angle. And he's like, dude, I like that. And then I was like, and maybe you could do this and this. And he's like, bro, the thing is, there's a little bit too much. He didn't use the word friction, but he more or less said there's a little bit too much friction. People are lazy. They're not going to want to do that. You want to make it simple for them, right? And point being is this guy's main thing is just creating content and making videos go viral, and that's all he's looking at every day. And I'm like, so dude, what's your framework? What's your format, right? I like principles and formats and frameworks. And he's like, I just understand people, so I make what the people want. I'm like, all right, cool. You know, sounds easy, but like, how do you do it though? Like, yeah.
So, I mean, a big part of it, right? Like, I think understanding and being curious is a big part of being successful. If we want to go even deeper, you could even ask another question. I like to ask why until there's no answer.
Sure.
That's like a big quote of mine. Ask why until there's no answer. So we say, oh, people are lazy. Okay, why are they lazy? Then you dig deeper into it, right? Human beings, laziness is a survival mechanism. Our brains want to conserve as much energy as possible, because the more energy we waste doing mundane tasks or little things, it takes away from our survival. Because if we're drained from just having to invest our energy into every single little thing, there's less energy if a predator tries to attack us or if something like that. So human brains, they're like humans are innately lazy. And the reason they're lazy, it's not their fault. It's not because they're just lazy. It's because human brains are meant to conserve energy. So with every single task a human being does, they want to do a task as easy as possible. If something requires too much effort, they're not going to do it, which is why you don't see a lot of people with six packs. You don't see a lot of people that make $1 million, because that usage of energy, they don't deem that it'll be beneficial to them. They don't see the immediate return. So human beings, we evolved to be lazy. And I think once you understand that, hey, it's not their fault they're lazy, but they just want to conserve energy, so they want to make it as easy as possible. It changes the way you view business as a whole, because now you understand how people work, you understand why they're the way they are. Now you can start to almost take advantage of that. I hate the word, but like manipulation, I guess, is a good way to explain it. You want to almost manipulate a human tendency.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it makes me think of, like, you know, people are moving away from pain and towards pleasure, typically, 100%. Right? And on that part of manipulation, like if you look at the definition, which I looked it up because my girl's like, dude, I feel like you're manipulating me. I'm like, what? Like, what? Like, dude, I'm like, look, I'm influencing you to do something, and I have control of the situation, but it's not always a negative thing. Like if you're doing it towards a positive thing that's going to be better for the person. But with that being said, how much do you think that's contributed to, you know, your strategy with social media? Because tell me if I'm wrong. Obviously, you're media. You have a media buying background, but a lot of what you do, it's from organic. Is that right? And
yeah,
when
it's a combination of both. Continue. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask. You know, when you're going and, you know, taking that information, right, and you're thinking with it to make content that eventually, you know, it leads to reach, but it leads to ultimately conversions and sales, dude. How do you go into that battle plan to make a strategy to build multi-million-dollar companies?
So a lot of people, you said it perfectly earlier. You said people move away from pain and towards pleasure. So anything content-wise that you're creating has to elicit a dopamine hit of some sort. It boils down, like when you look at billion-dollar companies, something crazy that I noticed on Twitter. When Elon Musk bought Twitter, one of the little minor tweaks they added is a sound when you refresh the page. Before, Twitter never had that. But as soon as Elon Musk bought it, they tried to make it more addictive. So when you scroll, like you go to refresh your page, you hear a little refresh sound, and it vibrates as well because you're getting feedback. And it gives your brain a little bit of a dopamine hit there. So as far as creating content, making things that go viral, I try to focus on two main things. It's removing the pain, adding the pleasure, and also somehow eliciting a dopamine hit. So ideally, if you have let's say you want to sell a notebook, right? You want to sell a notebook, because I say that because I have a notebook here.
Okay.
You look at the common issues of notebooks. They're expensive. Let's say they could be expensive, right? So you could say something like better quality at half the price, because now you've doubled the pleasure of better quality, right? And you remove the pain of like half the price, because the pain is when they pay. So you've done that. And now if you can make a funny video around the notebook to give the consumer an immediate dopamine hit, you're getting the message across while being humorous. So they're getting the dopamine hit and they're still hearing less pain, more pleasure. You're doing both things at the same time. So if you can do that, another great example, when people have little gadgets, these guys that do drop shipping stores, when they have little gadgets, they do these ASMR type videos where it's just satisfying to watch because it gives you a dopamine hit, but then also you're showcasing the product as well. And it's the pleasure is there, and then you could caption it something like, hey, this is only $6 or something. Because now you get the pleasure and then you have no pain, minimal pain. So you lessen the pain and you give them that dopamine hit. So I think a combination of both is really, really important.
Makes sense. And with that being said, so would you say it's pretty split on your companies? You know, half of it is organic and the other half is advertising, or is it more like a 70-30 split?
You know, it's weird because organic marketing will always get you a better result and a higher ROI.
Sure.
If I have a video that goes viral, you can make 6 figures from one viral video if it goes really, really viral, right? When you spend, because here's the thing, people don't like force. You can't really force your product onto someone. So there's a spectrum, and I talk about this in great lengths. It's a little bit advanced, but when you're forcing someone to watch something, they're gonna be a lot colder versus when they stumble upon you on their own. So you can manufacture that moment. You can manufacture, oh, I organically found you. You can manufacture that, but that feeling of them coming to their own decision is what makes them buy. If they see you and they're like, oh, this looks like a good idea, and they don't feel forced to purchase, they want to buy, because human beings, we avoid threats as a whole. I feel like this episode is going to be all like psychology, but human beings, we avoid threats. We naturally want to avoid getting hurt, taking an L, right? That's human nature. So if they see an ad, they're like, why is this person showing me an ad? They're trying to take my money. They're trying to make money off of me. But if they stumble on something organically, they're like, oh, this looks pretty cool. It wasn't forced on them. And because it wasn't forced on them, they trust it more. Because at the end of the day, your customers buy if they trust you. If they're not buying, it's because they don't trust you. You have a shady looking website, or you're a shady looking person, or the shit you're saying is just way too salesy, right? So I look at it from that lens. It's like, ideally we can do organic. The issue with organic is it's not predictable. So there's pros and cons to both. Realistically, organic's harder. Organic will make you a lot more money, but paid is a lot more predictable. So if you have no money, I always say paid takes a while to figure out. If you're going to force your ad on someone, it takes a long time to figure out. You have to test a lot of different ads. You have to spend a lot of money. And the second you figure it out, it's a fucking gold mine. It's a money printer. You put ink in it, it prints. But if you're starting and you don't have any money and you're kind of bootstrapping it, ideally you want to just go organic. It's unpredictable. You can try your best to manufacture it, but at the end of the day, it has the highest ROI when it hits. So again, unpredictable, highest ROI versus predictable, lower ROI. So I try to get an even balance of that.
No, that makes sense. And one of the big things that I've seen in like some of our clients that we work with on a rev share deal, they did have an organic following, but like you said, you can manufacture. I stumbled across this and, force feed them a content funnel that's, geared towards psychological points, objections handled throughout it. Right. And, they're consuming it and it is, it is nurturing them, but they're watching this video that is specifically designed to handle the objection of, self-doubt or fear or, whatever it is, right? Or just, hey, can I trust this person? What's their credibility, right? Have you played with any of that in your content where you have like almost like a grid and there's like, dude, I'm getting that objection, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think a lot of it. So you want to block every single objection before you even send them to the page. But one thing I like to do, and this is kind of my media buying strategy, I don't ever launch ads without testing them. So all of my ads now are, if they weren't made in the past, all of my new ones, it's just a TikTok. I'll post a TikTok or an Instagram reel just of me talking on my phone, super casual. And we'll check the numbers on that because you can test for free because of social media algorithms. So we'll post an organic video. If the organic video does well, let's say we have a video that gets 1 million views organically. That means a couple of things. You've validated the content. You know that people will watch it. You know that people like it, right? Because if it got 1 million views organically, that means it works. And then 2, now you know what you can use as an ad. So you've created an ad and you've also validated the ad without spending any money. So we spent $0, but we now have an ad. We know it works. We know it's good. And then I put money behind it and amplify it a little bit more. It's almost like what I would compare it to is a record label. Record labels, all they do with artists is artists will release singles or albums. they won't really push a song until they see a song work. So let's say an artist, Drake, releases an album. They'll check the streams on the songs on all the album. They're not gonna say, hey, this is gonna be a hit. They look at the streams, they see which one's performing the best, and based on those numbers, they'll go and do a media rollout for that. So they'll buy some press for the song, they'll do a music video for the song, they'll invest money into making the song even bigger. And that's the same thing when it comes to your ads, to your content. I like to take an approach of, hey, let's just drop as much content as possible. If something hits, something goes viral, that's what we put money behind because we know it works. And it's almost like that's, in my opinion, and you can disagree, but in my opinion, that is the best way, most effective way to go from having nothing almost to launching an ad and putting money behind it and printing in the most efficient way possible, I guess.
Yeah, no, I definitely can see that. And I would say that actually the person that taught me media buying that really helped me, his name was Jan. He actually did a little bit of work with Tai Lopez's too. I don't know if you know him, Jan Bhatia. Anyways, his big thing was we did like a mastermind. And in that mastermind, he asked me for help with basically building a remote sales team because that was my thing. And he was doing health supplements, and basically he was building a sales team to do high ticket sales on the back end for coaching or packages. And for me, he helped me with building a liquidation funnel, which is very similar to Tai Lopez's mentor box. Same, very similar structure, right? But the big thing that I took away from him was, dude, at the end of the day, you're a scientist and you want to test. And for me, I'll do the same thing, but I'll do it with email and I'll see what gets response. And because we have an email list of a few 100,000 people, just for one of the businesses, like I can get an idea of like, all right, this gets a lot of opens, this gets a lot of clicks. That might be a good angle for an ad. So, yeah, and I do think that it kind of goes in combination because at the end of the day, you know, if you're going to put money into something, ideally it's something that's been proven to work before and there's like some response to it, right? So on your end, when you're working in the education side, is it, you know, maybe tell everybody like, hey, this is who I work with. Is it people getting started? Is it people that have, a business and you're helping them grow? Who do you support on the education side?
So there's almost two levels to that. One, it's people that are just getting started.
Sure.
I don't really have an interest. I know people like to do education for people that have money already because they make a lot more. The education is like a very small part of my income, and it's almost like a passion project. So I like to help people specifically that have never started, don't have any experience, because for me, that was the worst part. Because once you start making a little bit of money, curiosity takes over, you figure it out. But people that are completely brand new, that haven't done anything yet, I think those are the easiest people to mold, to build. Because going from, I mean, you can attest to this, going from $0 to $10,000 a month is easy, right? Now, if I tell someone, hey, I'm going to help you go from 15 grand a month to 100 grand a month, it's more of an undertaking where it's like, I don't know if I want to make that promise to people, because then other factors come into play. Hey, is your work ethic good? Are you being lazy? Are you actually doing things that I say? But if you're going from 0 to 10 grand, like anyone can do it if they just follow a simple procedure. So that's kind of who I help the most. And it's cool because you almost have like the innocence in as far as business goes.
Okay, awesome. And those are people starting, is it social media marketing agencies or just an online business and you kind of give them different paths or?
Yeah, well, I typically try to teach people how to do e-commerce.
Okay.
It's really hard because there's a lot of moving parts. You have to get really good at building a store. You have to get good at the advertising side. You have to get good at the content creation. You have to be good at logistics. It was just way too many moving parts and people weren't really getting results. So the second that I switched to, you know what, let me just go back to my bread and butter. I made my first million teaching social media marketing, doing social media marketing. So let me teach you guys exactly what I did when I started. I knew nothing and I was able to do it. So I've switched to teaching people how to start their own agency, how to do social media marketing. And that's been where we've gotten the most results.
Love that. And I would say this, like people that I know that have mastered e-commerce, dude, they're beasts and just whatever they move into next, because they really are learning marketing at a high level, whether it's direct response or they're working with influencers. And, with social media marketing agency, either way, you get a lot of core skills that you get to learn on someone else's dime. And at the same time, those skills stack. And if you're going to do your own brand down the road, either one of those ventures will help you really go into the next venture with a foundation at least, right? So you're not worried about 50 part of the business, 50 different pieces of the business. You can just, come in with some background on marketing and customer acquisition, right? And
Exactly.
on that side, then that's a small portion of your income, right? And then I saw you have the software, which it does support marketing agency owners, right? Was that a more recent venture, or when did you launch that?
That's something I launched more recently. I kind of like stayed away from software because the way I look at it, depending on each industry you go into, the competition is going to be different. So social media marketing, if you're getting local businesses, local restaurants, local doctors' offices, your competition is not going to be steep. It's going to be people that live in your town, right? Now you go e-commerce, you're competing against these guys that are selling some pretty crazy products. They're really good at it. It gets a little bit harder. You go into software, you're competing with Silicon Valley. You're competing with Harvard MBAs. You're competing with these guys that are, because I'll tell you this, a lot of people in the software space are a lot smarter than me, right? So I really wanted to take my time before I jumped in there because I knew what an undertaking it would be. But now that we're here, I can almost like say it was a lot easier than I thought, but I wouldn't have been able to do it without the experience that I have.
Sure. And with that, the main value proposition, it is helping someone implement AI, and it's data. It's primarily data. Is that?
A big part of it, right? I think about what the hardest things, because entrepreneurship is just solving a problem and getting paid to solve a problem. So for me, when I was starting, I was like, where do I find businesses to pay me? It's really hard to find a business that's gonna pay me money. I can go on Google, but it's hard to reach out to them, et cetera, et cetera. So what we did is we built almost like a lead aggregator. It's pulling data from like 15 different sources all over the internet. And then to make things easier, this is where the AI component comes in, because AI is for the very first time in history, AI allows us to pass data through almost like a lens of judgment. And what I mean by that is before, if you were to code something, it had no free thought. It does exactly what you say. Hey, this means this, this means this. With AI, a good example, I think one of the AI prompts we have is pull data on this company, determine how big it is based on what you can find on the internet. So you'll have the AI crawling the internet, trying to figure out how big a company is, because the smaller companies are more likely to hire agencies to do their marketing, right? The big companies, if a company is huge, your Amazon, your Nike, you're not hiring a small agency to do your deals. So it almost doesn't make sense to even reach out to these businesses. And that was an extreme example, but there are companies that are mid-sized, right? 2,000 employees, 1,000 employees that might want someone in-house versus a company that 10, 15, 20 people that need a freelancer or an agency. So what the software does essentially is it solves that problem of finding customers, because we have it works 24/7. There's new leads in there every single day. It finds stuff like if they have a Facebook pixel installed on their website, if they have Google Analytics installed on their website, if they have TikTok pixel installed on their website. So you get these leads in front of you that AI has analyzed, right? It gives you a lead score that calculates your chances of success. So the higher the lead score is, the higher your chance of success when landing this client. The lower it is, you're probably not going to succeed. And it gives you all of that data like in one dashboard. So you can literally click 3 buttons, have 100 leads and all of the information about them. You know if they're running Facebook ads, you know if they're running Google ads, you know if they're running TikTok ads, you know where they're at, you know their phone number, you know everything about them, how big the company is, et cetera, et cetera. And AI has done all the work. So it's something that I love because people are loving it. People are landing clients left and right. And it's something that like makes me feel like I'm actually doing something.
Yeah. No, I love that. I definitely remember when I was working with Grant, we were headhunting. I mean, it was a lot of it was prospecting, but we were targeting companies that did more than $3 million, that had a sales team of, 4 to 5 reps at least. They have a manager. Like there's very specific criteria. And dude, you would spend time doing research. Like it was manual. This was a long time ago. And then fast forward, I did run a marketing agency after, and it was really just, we were incredible at sales, and I eventually realized like, man, dude, I'm not ready. I just don't want to handle 50 advertising campaigns for 50 different companies right now. And dude, I basically had 20 different cold callers, and then I had account executives that would take appointments, and this was in like 2016 or 15, somewhere around there maybe. And point being is, that process there, when the account executive would jump on the call, he would look at their website, look at their social media, go and check this. We'd use like 3 different tools to try to show up to the call like, hey, we know who you are, right? So this tool just, boom, you can save, 10, 15 minutes of research or whatever it is, right? And no, that's really cool. And with that being said, when you work with people, so obviously you kind of have your community that's starting an agency, you have the tool. Do you go ahead and when you work with new people, because I've worked with new entrepreneurs that are like, I guess, biz op, right? They're starting their business. And, we do different rev share deals with people that already have an established business, right? When you work with new people, how do you feel about guarantees in the marketplace? Because you see the crazy ones, right?
Yeah. Nothing is guaranteed. These crazy guarantees are all fucking scammers. I don't know if they're scammers. Maybe they actually can do these things. But I always tell people, nothing in life is guaranteed. If it's a true guarantee, it's probably too good to be true. Now, I do believe in guarantees with friction. A great one, going back to the topic, there's a mattress company. And they said, hey, we have a 90-day like enjoy or get your money back guarantee. Mattress companies are smart, because who the fuck is gonna go through the effort of getting a mattress, sleeping on it for 90 or let's say 70 days, and then I don't like it, paying to ship it back to the warehouse and like carrying it down and unpacking it. Like, no, once your mattress is set, you're not gonna return that thing. So I like if there's a guarantee with friction, I can kind of see how that would work. But for the most part, these crazy guarantees, nothing in life is guaranteed. I tell people, here's what you can do. You can guarantee you can work for free, right? Which I still don't recommend. But I say you can guarantee you'll do it cheaper than everyone else. So price match guarantees are a really big one. Hey, if someone says they're gonna do it for $1,000, you do it for $999 or whatever, right? I think price match guarantees are something that you can do. I think like guarantee that you're gonna try your best. Because even to this day, we still have clients, my agency, and I don't ever make them promises. I say, hey, I guarantee that we will try our best. I guarantee we'll build your campaigns. I guarantee that we'll create content for you, but I'm not guaranteeing you any sales. I stick to that. I say, here's what I've done, and I lean on my experience. I've built companies that have done millions of dollars. I've helped other companies make millions of dollars doing this exact process. We're gonna do it exactly the same thing for you. I'm not gonna say how much you're gonna make, but I'm fairly confident that we can make a lot of money because I've done it before. That's the way I see it. I think the gimmicky guarantees, I don't know. I'm not a fan of those too much.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the market shift. Like for me, I came from very traditional sales, and if somebody asked for a guarantee, I basically would do a takeaway and say, hey, dude, I don't know if I feel good about bringing you on as a client if you're already thinking about exiting the program before you get started. So point being though is to see the marketplace shift. I really just, dude, was trying to wrap my head around it. I'm just like, dude, how are these guys, jumping on an ad saying we're going to guarantee, $500,000 in sales or, X, Y, Z. And I've definitely have friends that are in the space and they will do the guarantee, but some of them are straight up bait and switch. Like, here's the big promise on the front end. Once you get inside, it's like, no, that's not really how it works, right? Others of them are big guarantee and then action based. You have to do A, B, and C. Like one of the guarantees that I thought was funny was it was like, hey, you're gonna get an ROI on the investment of working with us, but you have to call every single lead within 4 minutes, and if you don't call it in 4 minutes, you're scratched, and you're not getting the refund. But in reality, I mean, in a perfect world, every lead is called in 4 minutes, but dude, the guy, one of your reps go to the bathroom and it's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So action-based guarantees, I think that there maybe is a way to use those if they're aligned with getting the results. Are you kind of on the same page with that, or
so that's what I was saying, a guarantee with friction, right? If you make it hard, if you guarantee it with conditions, a conditional guarantee maybe is a better way to explain it. Overall, this is what I think. I think these people that make these outrageous guarantees, these outrageous claims, it's because they can't compete. They're not good enough to compete in a market without it. So anyone can sell something and say, hey, I'm gonna double your money. That's an easy sell. But selling something without having to say that, if you give someone parameters and they can't do it, does that make them a good salesman or a good marketer? Not really. If they can't sell without having to almost lie, it almost feels unethical. It's almost like a lie. Even the action-based guarantees, I'm sure they don't say it in the ads. I'm sure they in the ad says, hey, or your money back. And then the second they get in, right, bait and switch, hey, now that you're in, here's how the guarantee works. And then they'll elaborate on it. So I don't like them myself. Again, I could just be old school. I could be that guy that's like, man, this is the new wave. But personally, I wouldn't do it. I think you should stand on the the merit of your ads, your advertising skills, your offer, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a decent amount of, so I run a community. It's a free community. It has like 7,000 sales reps in it. And my brother runs an old company, which is a sales training. But, we have reps that have gone through other sales training programs, and dude, some of these are from big names that are really, really respected, and there's a lot of admiration for them just in this industry and online. And for one of the guys, we noticed the trend where reps would come in, and maybe it was a flaw with one of their coaches, right? Maybe it's not him, but it's one of the coaches that was on staff. But we noticed that the reps that would come from this trainer, dude, they're like literally leaning on, oh, dude, just try it out. And in 30 days, if you don't make your money, just, ask for a refund. And for me, I'm like, dude, here's the thing is this, like, you're really not setting. So one, dude, you're going to get a lot of chargebacks. Two, you're not setting the person up with the right expectations, because the truth is, dude, I know that for me, sometimes you're like on the cusp of greatness. You're 3 feet from gold, and you got to keep going, and then you strike it, right? And it might not be on 30 days, it might be on 90 days, it might be on 6 months. There was a rep that came to work with us, and for him, he worked at a retail job before. He was living in his in like a couch for $400 a month, and his first 2 months he did like one deal. 3 months in, he did like 2 deals that month. He brought in like 10 grand in sales, and he didn't strike gold until his 4th month. And then at 6 months, he was bringing in $100,000 a month into our company. And every single month after that, he would do between 100 to 200K a month in sales. And dude, if he bought into that thing of like, dude, just quit after 30 days if you don't make money in sales. It's like, bro, you're not going to get to where you want to go, with that expectation. So I think that's kind of where I'm at on it. But in the industry, it's definitely getting a lot more popular. And it is something where there's a really great book on advertising, but it talks about cycles of the market and how, the market gets to the point where the claims get more and more outrageous. And I think that's kind of where we're at, actually. But I
think when I look at it, right, because I feel like we're relatively on the same page. In order to be around for as long as we have, you can't be, let's call it what it is, like a scam artist, essentially, right? You like, gimmicks will only last you so long. You might make $1 million doing some gimmicky offering an outrageous guarantee. But as far as longevity wise, unless you're being transparent, unless you're running an honest business, it's not going to stick around. You're going to be, I've seen it because I've seen it myself. Like entrepreneurship, you see people pop up and then disappear, right? They're popping one year. They're the hottest shit. I'm not going to say any names. You probably know some. And then all of a sudden, boom, they're gone. Or they get caught and boom, they're gone. So unless you're running a transparent business, unless you're running an honest business, the universe almost, and this is completely not scientific, but the universe almost has a natural filter where it's like the people that aren't real, they're going to disappear anyways, right? Like they might have their 15 seconds of fame, but everyone's time comes. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, totally agree with that, and especially for the ones where, dude, you'll see like FTC, like, dude, offers, are like they can go super dark, right? Like, there's one of my buddy, one of my buddies that worked with me as a sales director. He runs other sales companies now, like as a remote kind of like sales agency, basically. And, he was on one offer and it went from 100K to $1 million a month. Boom, was shut down, and 8 months later, went to the next deal, dude. It got to the same thing. He's on a different offer right now that's doing like 800K a month. And just the thing is, like, dude, they're doing super high ticket with guarantees of ROI, and it's like a ticking time bomb, basically. But anyways, we could transition off that topic. Let's kind of turn this around. And I do want to ask this one thing, because the thing that I think is admirable is you have got a foundation of skills, and you kept developing and pushing yourself to get into more and more competitive industries, right? And you also have the supplement business now. Did you start that from scratch, or did you partner with someone that already had experience in supplements?
So I started it from scratch, essentially. And the reason I did, right, because again, when you have an agency, it's cool because you're making some money, but then you start to explore how you can exit. I don't know how agency exits work. I dabble a little bit with e-commerce because I helped build e-commerce businesses with my agency. So I had some experience, and I started looking at exits. Software, way too difficult. That's the ultimate one if you want to exit. Back then, a couple years ago, I was like, let me not do software because I have to, like, it's very cost intensive too, because you have to drop. I think we spent over $100,000 building the software out. Yeah. So you have to drop a lot of money. I didn't know if I wanted to do it. So I said, okay, so let's look into an e-commerce business that will allow me to exit for a big amount. I took a look at some of the multipliers, and I saw supplements as one of them. And supplements, because it's recurring, it's a consumable, your customers continue to buy. I was like, okay, I think I could compete there, right? You want to look at where you can compete. So I was like, let's do some research. I actually had a friend, and he didn't have supplement experience, but he had logistics experience. He had built an events company. He's good when it comes to moving parts, which is the opposite of me. So I hit him up. I said, hey, I give him my idea. I gave him the pitch. I want a brain pill, like the movie Limitless. Can you do that for me? He said, we can figure it out. And sure enough, we meet again 2 weeks later. He has an entire thing laid out. We start getting some products. We start trying them, guinea pigging ourselves, until eventually we landed on one that we liked. And the rest is almost history, because I started building out the advertising. We started doing a lot of organic, a lot of paid, started getting some traction. And the thing about any sort of like making money endeavor, it changes really, really quickly. It gets to a tipping point where you're putting in a lot of effort. You're front loading a tremendous amount of effort, right? 8, 12, 15, 20 hours a day. And then eventually it gets to a point where you're at the top of the hill. All you have to do is push it over. Because the second that we had a video that went viral, it popped off, and we started using it as ads. We started collecting all the data, started collecting emails. Now you've built a business that can almost run itself.